Hello! Welcome to the Friday stream. Apologies for that technical difficulty at the beginning of this. Hopefully things are going to stabilize for this one. But welcome to the Friday stream. Usually we try to be educational in some way or another. And today, as the title suggests, is the Welcome to Brawlhalla stream. We've gotten a lot of new players in recent time, just because, you know, we launched on mobile and things like that. And obviously, people are still finding out about the game and picking it up. Or maybe they're returning after a very, very long time. And so we figured now would be a really good time to do an overview of kind of some of the basics of Brawlhalla, some of the general mechanics, maybe some suggested control schemes, things like that. And I'm going to have Surus lead this one because he has long been the person being taught. I think it's time for him to be the teacher. Surus, how are you feeling? Are you ready to do such actions?
I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready. Basics is like I've got my basics down. And yeah, I mean, I think I can explain everything. I don't know how well I can, execute it. Also, so and we talked about this a little earlier, but I wanted to let people know. So I also changed my controls recently after our last stream. Talked about it, and so I'm kind of also relearning again. So it'll be a great opportunity for me to go through the basics with my new control scheme. Basically, all I did was just swap my dodge and weapon pickup to, whatever. But yeah, so I can do it. I can do it. I can teach Brawlhalla. That's what I can do.
Wait, okay. We can talk about your controls in a little bit, but let's get into a custom game, and then you can just talk about the basics. I figure that's gonna be the easiest way to do this.
Okay, sweet.
I'll just set it to 99 lives, or as long as I can do it time-wise. Yeah, okay. All right, so imagine this is somebody's first time seeing the game, or their first time. They've never heard about this game. Maybe they've never heard of video games as a whole. What are some things that they need to know about?
So welcome to 2020. Welcome to the internet. Welcome to the world of video games, and welcome to Brawlhalla. So Brawlhalla is a 2D platform fighting game.
Okay.
There are over, what are we at? We're over 50 legends now that you can choose from, and 50 unique legends. And then we have a bunch of cool crossovers that we've done with other people. Can people? Yeah, you can see the menu right now. So going through some of the cool things that we've added. Ben 10, Adventure Time, Steven Universe, WWE. Basically, every legend in Brawlhalla has 2 weapons. And the weapon combos are unique. So no two legends will have the same weapon combinations. Now, I'm going to run through the weapons real quick. And if I miss anyone, chat, please feel free to, shout it out. But we've got sword, we've got hammer, grapple hammer, we've got blasters, we've got rocket lance, we've got spear, we've got bow, we've got orb, we've got scythe, axe. Did I miss any? Great sword, our latest one, katars, of course, cannon, gauntlets, and I think that's all of them, right? Did I miss any?
I think you eventually got to all of them. He's definitely said blasters and hammer, chat. Those were some of the early ones that he said.
Yeah.
And then there's also unarmed when you don't have
unarmed,
weapons.
right?
Yeah.
And so, out of all those weapons, everybody has an unarmed kit. That's your most basic. Every legend, as soon as you get in, you haven't picked up a weapon yet, you still have your unarmed to fight with. Every legend has 2 weapons. Out of those 2, no legend will have the same. So let's get into a match, because I think that's. You can also stance your characters. So we've got attack, dexterity, defense, and no, that's dexterity. I was gonna say. Wait, no. What's the 4th one? Movement speed. Is it just it's movement speed?
Speed? Yeah, it's speed.
Okay. Right. I was going to say I thought speed and dex were the same thing, but no, it's not the same thing. Dex is like your attack speed kind of deal, correct?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you said the names of them, but can you tell me what those stats mean?
Well, let's find out. So attack will, I think it changes your damage values a little bit. Is that
And
correct? And and your that's all. That's all I know. That's my first strike, I guess.
all right, attack is it's how much damage you do when you hit someone, and then how far you send them when you hit them.
Oh, okay. So the variable damage. I was
Yeah.
gonna get into
So
that
it's like
later.
it's force.
Yeah. Force. Okay. Um. So then we have dexterity, which will it goes over the recovery speed. So like the speed at which you attack. I think it changes like the frames it takes, your startup frames, your recovery frames as well. Is that correct?
So conceptually, dexterity has to do with attack speed. Yes. It
Attack
is
speed. Okay.
the technical side is that it is only the recovery frames, which is essentially like how safe a move is, or like how
Right.
quickly you get out of the end of a move. But it's generally just like how quickly you will attack is like the general concept of that.
Cool. And then we have speed and defense. I think those are pretty self-explanatory, but it affects your movement speed, and defense affects. It's the opposite. So it's the
Mhm.
force and the damage you take is also affected.
Okay.
All right, cool. So is that's everything from the start menu, right? We can hop in
Um,
game now.
I think that's most of it. Yeah. Okay. Let's get into a game, and then you can kind of talk about what are moves, how do you hurt things, what is the goal of a game, things like that.
Okay, so if we're going to talk about like a standard Brawlhalla match, right?
Hmm.
Let's talk about ranked. So right now we have 99 stocks. A stock is basically that's your life. In most matches, you're going to start with 3 stocks, and you and your opponent both have 3 stocks. Now your goal is to basically take all your stocks from your opponent, um, and that's when you win the match. If you end the match with more stocks and your opponent has 0 stocks, that's game for you. How do we do that? We build damage. And if you take a look, Duke has taken some damage in the top right corner. There's little bars underneath our icons, and the yellow indicates the amount of damage. And so as I damage Duke, you'll see that color slowly get darker and darker all the way to red, at which point 2 things happen. So the more damage you take, the more your variable force, the force that you take increases, and so that'll send you off. So let's say I do a side air, which I'm getting ahead of myself, and eventually the more damage you take, the higher that is, you'll get knocked off further. And if you get knocked off too far, you lose a stock.
Uh, I feel like there's a more concise way to explain that entire
Tell me.
concept.
Tell me.
So okay. Again, you kind of talked about the game is a platform fighter, right? And generally the goal with platform fighters is to knock your opponents off of the platforms. And then like Sir has said, the color of your character's health bar is the measure of how much damage they've received. You also can see that color when you're hit, and basically the darker that color is, the more damage you have on you, and the more damage you have on you, the further you're going to get sent flying when you get hit. And then, of course, eventually you'll get sent flying far enough to not be able to make it back to the platform for one reason or another, and then you'll lose a stock. And then once you've lost all your stocks, then you're out. Game over. GG, the other person wins, or vice versa. If you get rid of all their stocks, then you win.
Okay. So let's go over. That was definitely more concise than than what I was explaining. All right. So we're going to start with combat now. You enter the match, you haven't picked up a weapon. What do you have? You have unarmed combat. Now, basics, absolute basics. So I'm really bad at explaining this. I'm struggling in my mind already. So on the ground, you have a certain set of moves. So over here, this is just chilling. You're neutral. This is my neutral unarmed attack. Two types of attack, light and heavy attacks. We'll talk about that in a bit, but I just want everybody to know that I know about that. So
I want y'all to know that I know those exist.
All right, so we got light attacks going. This is your neutral light attack, and then this is your side. So you hold a direction, the direction that you're going in, and it'll put a side attack on. That's your down. So I'm holding down and hitting my light attack, getting a down attack in. Now you can do the exact same thing in the air. So if I'm in the air and I hit a neutral, it's a completely different attack, but this is my neutral air. Now if I'm in the air and I do a down, you can see he kind of goes down like that. That's my down air. Same with down side. Side air, sorry. Downside. All right. So that's all the light attacks. So how many is that? You may be asking. That's 3. So we've got the down, the side, and the neutral, and then in the air it's 3, so 6. So down, side, and neutral. Then that takes care of all our light. Then we go into the heavy attacks. So the heavy attacks, as the name kind of suggests, are a little heavier. They take a slightly longer time to charge up, but they also do a little bit more damage. And it's the same concept. You have 3 on the ground. That was my down heavy, which I like to call the breakdance. It's your down heavy unarmed. Got your side heavy, where he kind of just charges that haymaker, leans into it. And then you've got your neutral, which is a nice little uppercut, goes all the way. You can charge these up, get a little damage on it. Now, when it comes to the air, your neutral, there it is. Okay, I'm trying to get the hit as well. So that is my recovery option, which is the heavy attack in the air. So the reason it's called the recovery is in Brawlhalla, you get 3 jumps. 1, 2, 3. How do you know when you're out of jumps? Your character kind of slightly, the color of your character, the shade will change just a little bit. You see Duke has ran out of jumps here. Now, you also get a recovery attack. That gives you a little more vertical distance. So let's say I fall off the stage. I'm out of jumps there, but I still have my recovery option. Just gives me enough to get back to the stage. Good thing is, if Duke's in the way, kind of puts a little damage on him too. What is our down heavy in the air? Boom, there it is. I don't know what that would be called. Like, I don't know what's a ground. No. I mean like a casual name for it. Like if if I call this a haymaker. I don't know. Heavy step down. But yes, this is called the ground pound. Anytime you're doing a heavy attack or a signature attack, going down, holding the down button, it's a ground pound attack. Putting a lot of force, and it's a great way to knock someone down the bottom of the stage if they're off stage. And our last one, and that's it, right? There's only 2.
Yeah, there's 2 heavy air buttons.
2 heavy airs, right? There's no. If you try and hit a neutral in the air, you're doing a recovery. You don't. Same with side. There's no direction for a recovery.
Side heavy is just a recovery. You have different directions you are recovering.
Right, because there's no direction for your recovery.
Side.
Now, take all of that. It's the same thing with your weapons. So you have your neutral light. I'm not pressing any directions. I'm just hitting my light attack button here. I'm going to do my air. There it is. So this is my neutral air. Great way to get somebody, if they're kind of jumping over you, floating above you, you got your neutral air. We'll go for side. That's my side light. And my side air. There it is. Side air, specifically on swords, is a nice way to send somebody off. Oop. So now we're going to do our down light. See a little bit of range there. Also a great opener for some combos. And then in the air, if I want to do a... there it is. It's a way for you to attack someone below you while you're above them. All right, so now we get to the juicy ones. My personal favorite. Everybody who knows, this is what I like to rely on the most. These are our signature attacks. Now, this so far, everything we've covered has been universal. So if I have, right now I'm rocking Bodvar with a bear skin. He's got swords, so everything we've gone through with the sword moves, that's going to be universal to every single legend that has a sword. This entire sword kit will carry on. So Duke is got Jala right now, and if he picks up the sword, he's going to have these same basic moves. But when it comes to the heavy attacks, this is completely unique. These are our signature attacks. So the next attacks, all right, there it is. So the 3 signature attacks for Bodvar's sword are all unique to him. So even though Duke has got the same basic sword kit, can't do the same signature attacks. So we're going to run through them real quick. We've got side signature, which is side and then the heavy while I'm holding the sword. My down signature, and then my neutral signature. Duke's running through his as well. You see they're slightly different. I can't get the same ones, even though we've got the same sword moves. Now, the next question is, hey, we went through aerial moves. Can I do those in the air? No, you can't. If you've got a weapon in the air, your heavy is going to do your recovery and your ground pound. But let's say you want to hit one of those. Oops. Let's say you want to hit one of those in the air. How do you do that? Well, that's where gravity cancel comes in. You've got a dodge dash button. If you hit that dodge dash button, you have a couple frames where you are considered grounded in the air, and you can hit those signature moves. Almost hit it there.
You get it one of these days. Like that.
Now y'all see, yeah, like that. Now y'all see why I'm still in gold.
All right, so you did a pretty decent job. I'd say like that's a good B on the explanation. Okay. Yeah. So the general idea with the moves, right? Like with basically all attacks, there's like 3 versions of it. You have the neutral, side, and down. Of course, you have your light attacks and then your heavy attacks. With the light attacks, that's like you said, it's going to be universal. So all characters have the same light attack unarmed kit. They also have the same light attack when they're sharing a certain weapon, right? So of course, we showed our swords. Both of our sword characters have the same light attacks, and then. With the heavy attacks, unarmed is universal, but the signature kit goes down to specific characters, right? So if we're both playing Bodvar, regardless of the skin that we're using, unless it is an epic skin, which is just like fancy, then it will be the same moves. And even if it's an epic skin, it'll just be different animations or different effects. It'll be the same hitboxing. It'll be the same like idea of a move, right? Like the down heavy is still going to do the scoop regardless of who is what stylization is on it. Other than that, air kit is all the same across the board. And then he talked about gravity cancels, which is basically a way to let you do grounded moves in the air, and that requires you to use an aerial spot dodge, which we have not talked about the aerial dodges and dodge dash, things like that just yet. So if you're still confused, no worries. But just understand that that's another way. Like if you see somebody do a grounded attack in the air, then that's what's happening. One other thing Cirrus has not talked about is slide charging. So Cirrus, if you would be so kind as to explain slide charging.
Ooh, okay. So slide charging is when you want to, and I think it's for it works on any platform, correct? But let's say, you know, we don't have any platforms above us. But let's say I want to hit a signature off stage, about here. How do I do that? Oh. Not like that. Not like this on stream. Okay.
All right. I guess I can do it. So if you want to do a heavy attack, right, there's different ways you can do it. Of course, again, we'll talk about movement in a second. But there's basically 2 ways if you wanted to hit a signature in this airspace. One is doing that gravity cancel again, right? You talked about that. That's how you can bring out grounded attacks. But also there's the slide charge, which Sir showed. When you have movement, you have momentum. So you run into a move, you will slide using that character's momentum prior to that move, and then you can charge up those signatures and do some pretty cool attacks. And what's nice about a slide charge versus like a gravity cancel is that you don't really use anything. Like that's essentially equivalent to using a grounded attack, right? That's the same thing as this.
Right, you're not
except
sacrificing
putting it in a different
option.
place.
I feel like I kind of have to explain a little bit. Maybe I don't, but I swapped my dodge and weapon pickup keys, and I'm still kind of my dodging and dashing is really bad right now, like really bad. And you'll see, I'll start throwing weapons when I mean to dodge.
It happens. It happens. All right. So we talked a little bit about all the different ways to hit people. Now we're going to talk a little bit about movement, how to avoid hitting people or avoid getting hit. So you're seeing Cirrus right now. He is dashing on the ground. For keyboard players, that is going to be the shift key by default. For controller players, that's going to be your triggers, left or right trigger. It's equivalent just by default. And on mobile, there's a button that I don't even remember what the symbol of it is because I don't look at mobile that often. But there's a button, and when you get into the mobile devices, you can look at it and see which one lets your character zoop around. But anyways, on ground, when you press that shift key, then you start dashing if you are holding in any direction that isn't no direction. No direction gives you a spot dodge. But as long as there is some direction to it, I guess up. I always forget. Up is also a spot dodge. But as long as like I'm holding down right now, holding down forward, holding forward.
These are the mobile keys.
All dash. Oh, there you go. Wait, it's like super tiny. Let me do this. There you go. Now you see it. It's the one on the right, I'm pretty sure.
This one, correct.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the one that does the dash. Anyways, our match is almost over, but we'll just spin up another one and show off. As long as you're holding a direction that is an up or no direction, then you're going to dash on the ground. So as long as your character is grounded, you will get that dash in whatever direction you are holding. If you're holding down, then it'll be whatever direction your character is facing, which that is nice for tech reasons. When you get to really high level, you are going to want to understand how to use down to dash. Other than that, on the ground, you have your spot dodge that has the same momentum properties as your signatures. So we talked about how you could slide charge by like using your character's momentum before you start up the attack, and then you have that momentum into the attack. Same principle applies to your spot dodge. So you can dash into a spot dodge. So that's how you give your spot dodge movement, because by default, spot dodging is your character being locked into place, right? You cannot do anything while you are spot dodged. But like I said, you can dash into it, and that gives you like a little bit of a dash into that spot dodge. And so that's how you can get a grounded dodge. Dodge means that you cannot get hit during your dodge. Then you move into the air, and you have the full 8 directional. You can go up left, you can go up right, you can go down, you can go left, you can go all sorts of directions with that aerial dodge. That's really nice because it gives you movement, right? So like if I'm over on this corner, I burned everything, I can still use that dodge to get that final distance in the air to get that wall touch and kind of effectively reset my character.
We need to switch the camera.
Oh, that's right. Wrong screen. Sorry about that. Okay, dodges again. Okay, so this is dash into that spot dodge. I talked about it. Sorry about that. Dash into spot dodge. Got that movement into it. Aerial dodges just like that. You can go in all these 8 directions, and then of course you can spot dodge like we were talking about. To do that aerial spot dodge, you have to explicitly not hold a direction with that aerial spot dodge. And then of course, I shown this a second ago. Aerial spot dodge gives you direction so you can get the wall touch. That is dashes and dodges in kind of its most basic ideas. Of course, there's like different recovery frames and things like that. That's a lot of really technical things, but for the understanding of it, you're invulnerable when you spot dodge. You're invulnerable when you're in dodge. So when you have a bubble, you're invulnerable, right? As long as that bubble is around you, you are essentially invulnerable. As long as you're not in recovery or started with that. Again, technical stuff, but bubble means safe. There's a cooldown on that, so you can't just keep bubbling, right? So this is me just mashing shift. And so, of course, that is your opportunity as a player to either get hit or to hit your opponent when their dodge is down.
And the cooldown in the air is slightly different from the cooldown on the ground, correct?
Yeah, I don't, if you want to get into the super high level stuff, basically your fastest cooldown is on the ground, your longest cooldown is in the air. The middle ground is you burn your dodge on the air and then you touch down onto the stage and then it resets to 0. The other thing you'll see involving dodges and dashes is called a chase dodge, which is basically if you get a hit, let's try to do that again. There you go. If you get a hit, you can chase dodge in directions, and that gives you the same invulnerability. It also gives you a lot of distance and speed with that, so you can use that to do really cool follow-ups if Cirrus isn't going to just keep running around. But you can do all sorts of stuff. And there's your gravity cancel mid combo, things like that. Right, you can like do things like that. You get the idea. Chase dodge is really, really nice. You get 2 if your move finishes on the ground. So let's see. This one brings me up, so I can only do 1, right? But if we do like this, then I can go forward, down, things like that. So you get extra chase dodges if your move is a grounded move. And one thing that's really nice for chase dodge is, Cirrus, if you come over to this and let me hit you. I'm going to miss this. There you go. So you can chase dodge up on hit in the air, which is really nice for surviving if you're in a dangerous spot. And of course, if you're playing against someone, you want to make sure you don't accidentally give them that chase dodge up. If they are dead, you're like, oh no, they've burned everything. I don't want to come close enough to let them hit me. Okay. Is that everything for dodges and dashes? Am I forgetting something? Dodge, dash, rise?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Also, chat, if there's a question you have, if there's something about the game you want to know, or you're too afraid to ask, or you want more detail about, throw it in chat, and then we'll try and answer all your questions. I see someone BuildBot V2. Thank you. Dash jumping. It's a little more advanced, but it fits right in.
So dash jumping. It's the same kind of concept as like you can dash into your spot dodge, right? Or you can dash into your signature. It's all about that momentum. So dash jump is literally you press that dash button, right? You're dashing in directions, and then you jump into it. And so your character will have like more of a horizontal move than if I just jump into it. Just gives you that kind of
I'm jumping.
speed.
Yeah. So I'm jumping at the same height, like standard height, and Duke is dash jumping. You can see he's kind of lower, kind of faster.
And it's mostly nice because you get a good burst into that like attack that you're trying to do. That's the big idea of that. The other thing about movement is there's this thing called fast falling, right? So if I jump all the way up, that's how long it takes me to fall all the way back down, not doing anything. But I can press down to go down faster. So that makes it really good for if you're like trying to pressure someone, right? I'm sure a lot of people have run into someone who will play like this in neutral. And you're just like, oh, this guy. That's because they're fast falling. You can't immediately fast fall. So if I'm holding down while jumping, I'm not fast falling. You have to wait till you're like about the apex of the jump. It's not 100% like, oh, I've hit the peak of my jump. Now I can fast fall. But it's like kind of around the apex before you can start pressing that down button to fast fall. You can kind of see the difference. I think it's more visible with, is that right? Oh. It used to be like really, really obvious if you, you can kind of see his hands flutter. We'll do it.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yeah, you can see his hands move a little. Hey, we can talk about the clouds too. So we're getting some the jump clouds.
Okay. I mean, there's 2.
So,
what?
Right. So on your last jump, it's a different cloud.
Oh, yeah. That's something that I don't think a lot of players like notice, and it's really hard to like keep an eye out for. Same thing, like I don't actually notice when a character grays out. I just kind of go off of feel, so that's like something that's hard for me to describe. But yeah, technically, when your characters burn all their jumps, they go grayscale. But also, if you look at the clouds, they have there's a different cloud on their last one. It's a much smaller, like more circular one. Um, and just so that people are aware, because this might be a little bit confusing, is that like jumping off of things does not count towards that jump counter. So I still, right, like once I'm in the air, I have 2. Same thing applies for like off of a wall. I still have 2.
All right, I'm going to start reading some questions because we're getting some great questions in chat. So someone was asking about what is an easy way to do the fast fall on controller. Honestly, I think it's actually, I personally think it's a little easier on controller, but the best way I think is just practice. You know, when you're up there, kind of play around with it a little bit in training, find that real sweet spot, because remember, you can't fast fall right after you jump. There's a couple frames there. So just, you know, hop into training and practice fast falling, especially with controllers. What about using fast and dash jump combined? So can you fast fall with a dash jump?
That is. So on a normal jump, you have to wait until you're at the peak. If you dash jump, then you can fast fall a lot sooner. That's what people are talking about right there. You're seeing that right there.
iFabulous has a great question. Something we actually didn't cover. So do you always get bonus jumps when you hit someone in the air? And how many jumps can you get this way?
Not when you hit someone. When you get hit, you do. It's a little bit confusing. It's like if you're out of jumps, when you get hit, you get 1 back. So once you have that 1 back, if you get hit again, you can't end up net positive on jumps just because you're getting smacked around. But it's for when you are getting hit, not for when you're hitting. So if you're hitting someone, you'll burn all your stuff. So you'll see that with like orb or with cannon, right? It's like sometimes they'll burn a bunch of stuff. They'll do like this really long thing in the air, and then they're like, oh, I don't have any jumps, and then they'll just fall. Same thing with like you'll see scythe players sometimes do it with cannon and lance. Like usually they're able to get back because they're like a little bit more intelligent about like having side airs to get back. But you only get jumps back by getting hit.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm starting to see some comments about controllers in general and things like that.
Yeah.
And then practicing escaping combos. So we'll talk about controllers real quick. D-pad versus analog, that's a long time debate. I'm personally a D-pad person. I prefer D-pad when I used to play controller, but it's also controller dependent because some controllers have really bad D-pads and some controllers have really good D-pads. I played with a PS4 with D-pad on my controller, but I do know people who would play with like stick or like if I played with a 360 controller, I'd play with stick over D-pad.
Yeah. Another question, kind of building off of that: how many high-level people you know that uses controller? So, from what I understand, it's actually pretty. It used to be pretty evenly split. I don't know what it's currently at. Duke might be a little. Duke might know a little more, but honestly, we have pros that play with controller, and there are pros that play with keyboard, and there's no real. You know, I'd probably say they're equivalent. For me personally, I actually play on both. I started with keyboard, and then I picked up controller, and I think my skill level is actually pretty much the same on both. Duke, do you want to?
Yeah, I think it does lean a little bit more keyboard, but there isn't really any empirical reason for that besides that it's just like comfort.
Right.
I personally prefer keyboard because I feel like I can input certain things faster. But that's, again, it is personal preference, especially like unless you're at the very top end, for the most part, it's just play with whatever you have and whatever you're comfortable with. And then, of course, depending on your platform, some of those are not going to be an option, right? Like, you're not going to be able to play keyboard on an Xbox One. Of course, Xbox wants you to play on their Xbox One controllers, and their Xbox One controllers are very good, especially like the Pro controller with the octagonal D-pad. I really like that. So there are players who are at the top level with controller. Koslix, I saw people in chat talking about Koslix. He's one. I believe Ethan still plays with PS4 controller. But it is ultimately personal preference on what you want to play with.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a couple. Someone said, does Lil Capt as well? Does he play on controller?
Yeah, that's right. Lil Capt also plays with a controller. Yeah, so there's a couple. It's definitely not like a thing where only the top 8 people play with keyboard, and if you're not playing with keyboard, you're like bad or something like that. That's definitely not the case. We see people who do well with everything.
So we have a question about somebody asking about true combos, and sorry I couldn't catch your name in time, but someone is asking, what is a true combo?
Okay, yeah. I also saw this with a question about defensive stuff. I'm actually going to hop out of this one, and we'll go into training mode because that's the best place to show it. Cirrus, if you want, I will. Let's see if I can do this without breaking everything.
I mean, I'll be.
All right. There we go. Okay. So hopefully you can see what I'll be doing over here. You can also still look at chat, but so true combos.
The chat questions as well.
Let's go over here. Okay, so this is training mode. Everyone has access to this, of course. This is just a great a great resource for players. I'm just doing some general setup of training mode. These are things that I like to do. First off, on this side, I like to turn on show damage, stun, and hitboxes, and then turn off item spawning because I want less clutter. And then damage reset and position reset. Basically, that's if you look at Bryn's health, you'll see she teleports back there and she's back to 0 damage on her. So that's the whole idea. Now, so you see when I hit, it shows the damage numbers. Downlight does 8 damage. True combos are basically when the game will tell you it's a true combo because it shows that the damage is added up. That was 2 hits, totals 25 damage. If I do it too slow, then the game doesn't register it at all as a combo, and it's just like, okay, you did an 8 hit, you did a 17 hit. That one is close enough that the game was like, hey, there was 31 frames where the opponent could have gotten out of that. A true combo is essentially damage where the opponent can do nothing about it. So no matter what this Bryn does, as long as I'm hitting this true, then she is going to take 25 damage every single time I hit this, right? So this is something that, like, you know, you're going to practice. You can be like, okay, every single time I do this, the opponent's going to take 19 damage. They can do nothing about that once they get hit by that downlight. That's when you get into the idea of strings, which is like if they don't do the right thing, then they will take damage, right? So let me try to think of a string. Okay, I guess this is a string. Well, we can call that a string, right? This is like an idea of that, right? Where it's like, this isn't, the opponent could easily get out of this, but if they don't do anything, then they're going to take that. And that's why we call it a string versus a true combo. Somebody was asking about how to practice against this. The easiest way that I can think of off the top of my head is you set the bot to dodge react randomly, and then you can be like, okay, well, now I know, oh, if I try to do this same downlight down air and I'm doing it wrong, then the bot can either dodge into it, right? And then, okay, well, now I know not to dodge that way. Now I know not to spot dodge inside that. Now I know, okay, I can dodge up out of that. So that's a good way to get an idea of what are things that work well against certain strings, is doing them on bots. Getting out of true combos doesn't exist. No matter what this bot does, downlight ground pound is still going to hit. It's going to react out of getting that hit by that ground pound. And that's kind of the important thing that you want to know anyways, is if you're getting hit by a true combo, how do I put myself into a position where I'm not going to find myself getting caught by it again, right? So.
All right, I got a couple more questions. Okay, so have we talked? This is a little complicated, so maybe we'll go. We'll talk about X pivots later. So someone was asking about how do we throw a weapon and how do you use that in game? And that's a real interesting one because it seems so simple, but honestly, that's something that even I learned really late into my gameplay.
Okay. So by default, a weapon pickup is light attack, but there is a button specifically for that. On controllers, it is the bumpers. I use WASD and then HJKL. That's the default if I'm using left hand to move. And for me, that makes H my weapon toss. So if we got to turn on item spawns for the purposes of this. But okay, so say I don't want this axe anymore. Maybe it's damaged, or maybe I just am not feeling like playing like axe. Then I can go over here, I can press H, and then I pick up and I can swap to the other weapon. It'll always swap to whatever your next weapon is. So if I have gauntlets, I'm going to throw this away. There's a 100% chance of this being axe. Your first weapon is going to be random, but from that point on, it will always swap to the other one. The reason that is very valuable is because, like, say I only feel like playing axe against them, I can throw away the gauntlets. Now the next time a weapon spawns, if it'll spawn for me, 100% chance it'll be an axe. Then I can kind of prime my next weapon. That's what we call it, priming. Ways to use weapon tosses. It's kind of weapon dependent. There's a lot of like general ideas people will use weapon tosses. One thing people do is like, wait, let's see what we'll do. Do like weapon toss, downlight pickup. If I can do it right, like that. Like you'll do a downlight and then pick up the weapon, combo into it, or you'll do something like a neutral light into a weapon toss just to keep that pressure. Usually weapon tosses are like ways to just extend your range, right? So I can use this weapon toss to hit Bryn from further away than I normally would with an axe. So those are like different situations where you'll see weapon tosses be used. Trying to think of if there's any like very, very common weapon toss true combos. Probably the most common one is the egg drop, which is an offstage thing where you're playing against where you're using spear, you do a toss down, that hits, and then you immediately follow it up by picking up the spear toss and hitting a down air. Pretty hard to create that situation within the training mode, but that's just a general idea. It's not really something that you're going to see people use like practiced true combos with a weapon toss. It's much like a situational, I'm using it to extend my pressure on an opponent.
While you're still in training, we had a couple questions about how to do stuff in training mode.
Okay.
Specifically, someone was asking, "Hey, how do we reset the position for the opponent in training?"
There's a button called position reset. It's set to on. So I will turn it off for a sec. Just hold on. Let me clear some stuff out of the way. So this is position reset. So if position reset is off, no matter what happens, the bot will just end up where it ends up, right? But if I want, like say I want this Bryn to always be right there, we can hit it, whatever, it'll move, and then it'll automatically go back there. There's two ways that you can utilize that, timed versus when grounded. So timed is like, no matter what, after enough time has elapsed that this thing has not been getting hit, then it'll eventually teleport back, versus grounded, where it's only when it's on the ground does that apply, and then you'll see it teleport back.
Cool. So got a couple other questions that I've been getting from chat. So someone was asking about wall slip.
Okay.
They didn't really have a specific question, just kind of how long can you slip on a wall. So I figure, there's a lot of things that go into that.
Yeah. Okay. So wall slip. This is a thing about, I guess, so understanding jumps a little bit deeper. We talked a little bit about once you're in the air, you have two air jumps, a recovery, and a dodge. We didn't really go into detail about the fact that you can also exchange some of those jumps for exhausted recoveries. So basically, you can do up to 3 recoveries. But just understand, once you've burned all 3 of those recoveries, you have no jumps. So it's just kind of exchanging. It's a give and take. You will always have bare minimum 1 recovery, but you can turn the last 2 of those jumps into recoveries. And that'll reset if you touch your feet on the ground. It'll also reset if you touch the wall, right? So you can see based off of color that it'll go back to being all bright and happy. And then wall slip is, you saw that exclamation point just a second ago. If you spend too long on the wall without getting hit or taking damage, then eventually exclamation points will come out. So you see 1. Once 2 come out, that's your big warning. And then once 3 hit, you see I'm not resetting my color by touching this wall. That means I'm not getting any jumps back from touching the wall, and I have to be back onto the stage to reset. So that's what wall slip is. Essentially, eventually you will run out of jumps, and you'll fall to your death if you aren't careful, or you'll run out of the ability to avoid things. Right? See, now I can't jump or recover. Back to the stage. I saw someone talk about, hey, please explain extra chase dodges. I kind of showed it, and I did talk about it a little bit. The short is that you can chain chase dodges if your first attack lands on the ground. See, so you can go extra chase dodges. Chase dodges, you can only go in the same horizontal plane, so I can't chase dodge backwards. I can chase dodge straight up or straight down or forward, of course. And then you see in double. But if I do something that ends in the air, let me think of an attack. What's an attack? Where's an attack that ends in the air? Sidelight. I can only do 1. That hopefully answers people's questions. What's next?
Why does my weapon break?
Okay, so that is durability. The more damage you take, the more your weapon's durability goes down until some fancy math happens, and when you take a certain amount of force while your damage durability is low enough, your weapon will break. There's a very complex equation that I'm not privy to, but essentially, the more damage you take, the more damage your weapon takes until its durability goes down, until eventually it'll break, and then you can't pick it up again. It'll be knocked out of your character's hands. They will be disarmed. So let's give Bryn a spear. We'll just hit her a bunch of times. Eventually, this thing will fly out of her hands if we hit her hard enough. Actually, I don't... Okay, yeah, that's right. Weapon the health reset does not affect durability for training mode. She died before it mattered. Anyways, that's the idea.
So yeah, so basically, your weapon also has certain think of it as your weapon also has a health bar.
Yeah, there you see it.
There's a good question that I had no idea about. So does changing your stance affect your combos, true combos and stuff?
Yes. Again, we're getting into very technical things, but I think at this point that's fine. Yes. So we talked a little bit about dexterity as a stat. That affects the recovery frames of certain moves. And what that means is basically the time before you can do other things, other moves. And so at some extremes, you will see that characters unlock true combos because they have like 10 dexterity, and suddenly they're getting enough frames off of moves that they can chain in this extra hit onto it. Also, you'll see it at the bottom end. It's very rare, but at the bottom end, you'll sometimes see that characters are losing true combos. For the most part, you don't have to be overly concerned. For the vast majority of characters, that's not really going to be a thing. But technically, the answer is yes. There are situations where, depending on your stats, combos will stop being true for you to use. Defense and strength won't really affect that, except to say, like, for cannon, right, there's a string where you could do side light, side air. The more damage they have, the more variable force they take, which puts them out of the position to take that side air. So then the more damage you have, the less your window is to hit that. But it doesn't make the combo any less or more true. It's just that your window of your string is starting to break.
Okay, awesome. So next question. Sorry, I've been
no, you're
trying
fine. I just I realize I'm getting really, really technical, but like that's kind of the only way I can think of to answer some of these questions. So I apologize if it's like, hey, there's really high level.
The next couple questions, I think we're going to get a little more technical, but they're all things people want to ask. So I'm going to go with the simpler one first. What is a dodge read?
Okay, so a dodge read, the short is like, okay, we talked a little bit about strings, right? Strings are things where if the opponent does a certain thing, then they can get out of your follow-up. A dodge read is where you are saying, I know my opponent is going to do a thing. You never 100% know, but it's you being like, my opponent, I am reading. I am expecting them to do this thing. I'm looking into the future and reading the future and saying, okay, they're going to do X thing after I hit them. And so you are reading that and preparing to punish them for doing that thing. So let's see here. If I do like a neutral light, I have the bot set to do a dodge to the right, so I can follow it up and chase with a side heavy, right? And the bot can't do anything about that because it went into a path that I already had a prepared follow-up for. That's a dodge read. Of course, the counter to that is, right, like if you are getting read a lot, then obviously your dodges are being predictable. That means you need to change up your dodges. If you want to practice dodge reads, I highly recommend going into training mode and hitting them, practicing them on a bot, see what the bot does to either get out of them or see what the bot is doing that's very predictable that you can add to your dodge read and be like, okay, I know that if I hit someone who has a habit of dodging straight to the right, now I have this thing. See? All right, what's next?
So someone's asking about knockback. So what is knockback and how does it relate to force and variable force? And we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think maybe it's time to...
Okay, knockback is just another word for force.
Right.
So when you hit someone, there's 3 numbers that are important. There's the base damage, then there's fixed force, and there's variable force. Base damage is what you would understand. Most people understand. That is how much damage hitting them is doing, right? So hitting him does 14.43. There's complicated strength versus defense, which is why that number is so gross, but that is the amount of damage that they are taking.
Right.
Then you have your fixed force. That is, they will always take this amount. They will always be moved this amount, right? So
Right.
downlight is basically all fixed force. I'm going to turn off this dodge. Downlight is basically all fixed force. So no matter what, no matter how much damage this character takes, or like, technically there is some variable force, but you'll see they don't really go. It's basically exactly the same, despite the fact that they have 200 damage on them, right? So that's fixed force. No matter what, they're getting that amount of movement. And then you have variable force, which is how it's. Variable force is another one of those like complicated fancy numbers, but basically high variable force means they get sent further the more damage they have on them. So at 0 damage, neutral heavy doesn't send them very far, but once you bring it up to 200, neutral heavy launches them. That's the 3 different numbers. Knockback is just a fancy or just a simplified version of all those force values. So you're just saying a move with a lot of knockback is also a move with a lot of variable force and fixed force.
Right. So there was a question about, you know what? Directional influence. DI. What is DI?
Okay. DI, most people who know about DI have either heard it from a tournament or come from a different platform fighter. In other platform fighters, DI is it stands for directional influence, which is basically when you get hit, you can kind of control the force vector. Let me try to explain this whole idea very simplified. Okay, so we saw unarmed downlight, right? It sends them straight up. In other platform fighters, you can kind of control it to go a little bit left or right? Like, so you can kind of change the angle just slightly, and that can be really helpful for getting out of pressure situations. For the purposes of Brawlhalla, RDI only activates when you get hit by the exact same move multiple times. So you'll mostly only really see it in 2v2s. So if you have you and your teammate are doing sword neutralites, you can hit the opponent neutralite in a neutralite. Once that second one hits, they have the ability to activate that DI and influence the angle at which they are being launched. That's DI. Did that make sense?
Yeah. So I think we're actually out of time. Like, we've been out of time for a little bit.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
I have not been
We only
looking at
got
the clock.
We only got four minutes left on the stream, so it's definitely time to do some giveaways.
Yes. I'm gonna hit one last question because these are all like technical things that people like see or hear, but they don't fully know. The last one is a ledge cancel, because someone asked about that. So we talked a little bit. You can't use grounded moves in the air, but of course, a soft platform is a platform. It is still ground. It is a ledge. So something that you can do is cancel your upward movement into an attack with a ledge cancel, right? So you're seeing this is me jumping and doing a downlight versus ledge canceling a downlight if you get it right. And basically the concept of that is if you are moving through a platform, if your feet are touching that platform, your character will be considered grounded. So you can ledge cancel all of this arc above the platform into a ledge cancel, and then that gives you a little bit of an attack. You can also do it with dashes, so you can see that same general idea. You'll also see it going in the reverse, where you're trying to attack down into someone with like an axe or something, and then you accidentally ledge cancel, or you accidentally throw out like a ground pound or a down signature when you're trying to ground pound, things like that. But that is the idea of a ledge cancel. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense.
Well,
good.
Thank you everybody for all the questions. And so, I'm sure there are people that have some unanswered questions. There's a lot more questions. And that's what the Friday stream is for. It's our learning stream. We really hope you, whether we're going over like a weapon or combos or, the basics, that's kind of what we're here on Fridays to do. So, keep those questions. And if you have something that we didn't answer, the Apex Chimera, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm glad that you learned something. If there is something you have that hasn't been answered, or something that, you saw in a tournament that you've got some questions about, or you're a little confused, or you heard it online, come on into next week's Friday stream. That's where we go over all these things, and we might not be doing that specifically, but Friday's all about learning. So
Yeah.
if you have a question that's learning related, we'll definitely get to it.
But for now, we'll do this giveaway, and I'll still answer a couple more questions while we're doing this giveaway. But anyone who's watching on other platforms, now's your time to move over to twitch.tv/Brawlhalla. Make sure you're signed in and get ready for this giveaway. Again, you don't have to say anything or do anything for our giveaways. If you do want to say stuff, ask some questions. I would be happy to answer them. We'll let Cirrus answer them if he knows the answer to the questions, or maybe we can just quiz him on that. But please, if you want to be entered into this giveaway, hop on over to twitch.tv/Brawlhalla. I'm not going to break Photo's record. I don't have the physical capabilities of dropping 100 metadevs. Sorry, chat. Literally, I get banned if I go over 25. So it's not gonna happen. Voda can have that reward or award for being the best. Anyways, throw some questions.
I saw a question about what my elo is, so I'm gonna let you answer that, Duke, because
because it's gone down technically.
My elo is horrible right now. So I think my peak of this season was like 1500 or 1490 something. I'm currently 14, maybe 1380, something like that. And a lot of that is in part to me trying to relearn my controls.
Yeah.
But
that's fair.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even talk about controls. I guess we'll have to say that for another Friday stream. But yeah. So Cirrus, for those of you who don't know the story, we love to tell this story before.
I love to hear it.
Yeah, it's always great. Cirrus, when he first started playing Brawlhalla, he was not really a person who played platform fighters. He didn't have any experience or anything like that. So he started off and dropped a lot of elo to the point where we were like, "Wow, that I didn't really. You did that on purpose." But through these Friday streams, we've been teaching him. He's been getting better. He's to the point where some people are like, wow, if you look back at where Cirrus started and where he is now, he's gotten infinitely better. Of course, he still has flaws. He joked about how he throws SIGs out all the time, which is a terrible habit. We can talk about that at some other point. But he's mid gold, and he's pretty consistently mid gold, which is honestly pretty impressive considering it was not that long ago where getting to gold was difficult for him, and he would send me a message when he's like, I finally did it, and now it's like, hey, you can earn it.
Yeah, I still send Duke, when I hit my peak elos, I still send Duke a screenshot. I'm like super proud of it.
It's honestly like, it's really rewarding, not gonna lie, to see have your I don't know if steward is the right word, but to have somebody be like, hey, I did it, and I'm like, I get to be the proud dad who puts the macaroni and cheese art on my food. Like,
someone actually offered me coaching yesterday. They were like, hey, like I'll coach you, and I was like, no, I can't do that. I have to be coached on stream.
Yeah.
Plus, I already have an awesome coach, so.
I don't know. Eventually, I'm gonna just abandon you and throw you in the gutter. Just saying.
Oh, someone said you turned off my camera. That's cool. It's okay. It's all about the giveaways. You don't have to see.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. Hold on.
No, it's all good. It's about the giveaways. So I see a lot of people saying a certain word in chat. I just want. I guess it's time for me to do the thing that I do. So you don't have to say anything. If you are in Twitch chat, you are automatically entered into the giveaway. So you don't have to say anything specific. Join will not work. It doesn't do anything. But if you feel like you really, really want to say something to enter the giveaway, then let me tell you what you should say. You need to write hashtag Duke is an amazing coach.
I appreciate that. I will say, literally anyone trying to join right now, it's too late. Like it isn't a system where you type something and it gets added in. It's a system where we pull everyone at one singular point, which has already happened. So if you're typing things like it's literally useless.
Yeah. So yeah, the giveaways are there. You just have to be in it. Duke is an amazing coach.
Very appreciated. I do like if people have questions, we're gonna be sitting here doing giveaways for a little bit. So if people have like legitimate questions, then I'm happy to answer them. If it's like a salty question, then I'll give you a bad answer. But like if you have a legitimate question, then I will be happy to answer them.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll also take questions, but if you must say something, you must,
How old am I? I'm older than all of y'all combined. I'm the oldest person to ever touch this game. What
I
is
think
9 plus
that's fair.
10? 19. Unless there's some weird fake math thing where you end up equating 1 plus 1 equals like 4.
How long have I been playing for? So the first time I ever played Brawlhalla was I think in 2016 or late 2015. Um, it's like super early on. And Duke kind of mentioned it, but I've never been. This is my favorite fighting game. There's no way around it now, But like before that, I kind of only played a couple fighting games and some I didn't play a lot of platform fighting games,
Hmm.
but so when I really started getting super into it was when we started the learning with Surus stream. That it kind of gave me a lot of motivation to be like, yo, I gotta play better, I gotta do better, and the more I played, the more I practiced, the more I was like starting to love fighting games because I feel like fighting games there is, and this is just my personal opinion, but I feel like fighting games are super technical. I've never really been a very super technical player at any game. I played a lot of FPSs, a lot of RTSs, and so Brawlhalla was kind of like it kind of made me fall in love with fighting games. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I have a similar, I guess, story. This is my first like legitimate platform fighter. I played a lot of like Capcom fighters, 2D fighters, things like that. Huge fan of like the Marvel versus Capcom, so like a versus game. So even Dragon Ball Fighter Z. But this was my first platform fighter, and it definitely
Yeah.
took me a decent amount of time to get to the point where I think I'm like satisfied with how well I do. I can get diamond each season after a reasonable amount of effort, so I'm
Nice.
satisfied with that.
Who is the best player out of all the devs? I'd have to
Probably
say
Foda.
Foda. Foda is probably the best.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah. I mean, I don't even think there's any doubt about that. I mean, there's people that are up there too. Like shout out to Slosh, Game Fiend. They're really good. But I think overall, I'd say my money would be on Foda. Um, Another question here. Somebody is asking about Twitter. Duke, do you have a Twitter you wanna
Oh, are
promote
they
real
asking
quick?
about our Twitters? Mine is
Yeah.
DukeXFam, DucXPham as in Mike. Um, I tweet dumb things literally just yesterday. I tweeted Shrek voice or donkey or monkey, right? Just imagining the way that Shrek says donkey, but saying monkey. That's the kind of thoughts that go through my Twitter's head. Cirrus, what's your Twitter?
It's Whysosaurus, Whysosurus.
Nice.
Any other questions? Can devs enter tourneys? No,
Nope.
unfortunately we can't. Otherwise, I would win them all. It's funny if you know how bad I am.
It's funny if you've watched other Friday streams.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
no,
Will you
yeah,
be
we're
doing it?
not allowed to,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. Foda actually used to be the former. He's former rank one at Brawlhalla.
Yep.
And once you are a developer, you are no longer allowed to compete.
Yep. Foda used to compete in tournaments. I used to cast the tournaments that he would compete in. Um, Foda was rank one, like legitimate. I was rank one on PS4 back when PS4 was on its own server, but like I don't consider that a rank one. Like it was just like me in a very very small pool of players. But let's get these meta devs underway.
Oh, it's metadev time.
Yeah.
So for all the people that are just joining us or who don't know what a metadev is, this is a welcome to Brawlhalla's stream. So a metadev is a super awesome skin that we launch every year. So every year we have one metadev that comes out, and at the end of that year, it is retired and it is unavailable. You cannot get that skin anymore. All the codes that we printed, that's it. So our first one, I think, was Metadev Orion.
Hmm.
Then we had Metadev. Let me see if I can name them all. Then we had Metadev Ember,
Hmm.
right?
I think
And then
yeah, I
it
think
was
Ember was next.
Bryn. Then it was Bodvar,
Uh huh.
and the current one is Asuri.
Yep.
And so once Asuri is gone, that's it. Those codes, they won't, next year they won't exist anymore, and then there'll be a new metadev. And the only way you can get a metadev is in person from a developer.
Or of course, because we're all in our own
Right,
homes, we're giving
right,
away here.
right. So the only way to have gotten it in the past was come to a LAN or come meet us at an in-person event. Sometimes we'll go to like PAX
Yep.
or some con, and we'd be there, and you'd come up to a developer and get. Right now, obviously, situation's a little different, so we're trying to give out those metadata series.
Yep. Yep. We'll do 4 more.
4 more, all right.
Yeah.
How can
And
you
yeah,
enter tournaments? Oh, great question. Smash.gg/Brawlhalla or Brawlhalla.com/esports.
yeah.
I'm gonna try and drop a link if a mod can drop a link. Brawlhalla.com/esports, and it'll tell you everything. Brawlhalla.com is your resource. You want to know anything and everything about the game? Brawlhalla.com. Brawlhalla.com/mobile. Brawlhalla.com/esports. And it will, you'll if the link or if it's not there, it'll direct you to where you need to be.
Yeah, someone did bring a good point. I think the esports rules are in one of those locations as well, but just like so that y'all are aware, you're not allowed to mod your game if you are participating in those tournaments, except for you can change your game background because there's some visual reasons that some people would need to do that. But for the most part, like there's you'll see people with like the jump mods where you can see the colors. You're not allowed to participate in tournaments with that, so just keep that in mind if you're looking to do that.
Yep.
But that's gonna do it for our giveaways. I just realized the music ended, but hopefully that was some education-y things. I know it was kind of if you've been playing for a really long time, you likely were like, I kind of know all this, but at the same time, it's always good to refresh yourself on some of that information, because like I forget about the clouds, right? I forget about going grayscale when you're out of jumps, things like that.
I mean, I think at this point I've probably got like 900 hours in over like, and I feel like I learned something today as well. I forgot something, I learned something, and you saw me try and explain the moves.
No, but for real,
right.
To that point, like it's one thing to have been taught an idea and to understand it. It's another thing to be able to explain it. And usually, like, that's what people consider, like, when you actually fully understand a concept is when you can explain it to other people. So, like, usually when you can have someone who can, like, when you can be like, oh, hey, friend who's never played this game before, let me try to explain this to you. And when you stumble through it, you're like, okay, maybe I don't fully understand how the system works. Let me go in.
Maybe that's what's holding me back from plat, huh?
Maybe. But anyways, that's gonna
I'm
be
gonna take this. I'm gonna take this last question.
What?
Sirs, can Duke beat you? Of course he can. Of course he can.
I don't even understand what is this game. That's it for our Friday stream. Thanks for watching. We have plenty more dev streams. For those of you who are excited about esports viewership rewards and you're asking where can I get my cape taunt, tomorrow Steel Series is going to start off with the 1v1 portion of things. We already had our TV2s. We'll go into 1v1s tomorrow where you can get those esports viewership rewards. And then, of course, all our other esports viewership rewards will happen during esports events. And then we have our regular scheduled dev streams. Monday is our esports dev stream where we talk about what's going on in the world of esports. Tuesday is kind of our hangout dev stream. Sometimes we'll reveal new things. Sometimes we'll just sit there and answer questions. Sometimes we'll just talk about cats, which I want to do, and I just that's all I care about. I just want to talk about cats. And then Thursday we host people over on twitch.tv/Brawlhalla. If you're a Twitch streamer, we will sometimes host people. And then on Fridays, of course, is our education stream where we try to answer questions about how to play better, how to be better, how to do better.
Right.
But that's it. Cyrus, any parting words?
No, thanks for joining. I hope you learned something, and keep playing. Honestly, it gets easier and you get better. So, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. See you next time.
Bye-bye.